Good evening to everyone here. Thank you for coming to our program this evening. To those few of you that don't know me, my name is Earl Stoner. I'm the Maui board member for the Friends of the UH Cancer Center. And on behalf of the Friends of the Cancer Research Center director and staff, I would like to thank all of you for attending. The Friends of the Cancer Research Center have been providing support for research activities at the center for over 30 years. And we are very pleased with our progress that has taken place recently, receiving our NCI designation and breaking ground on our new building in Kaka'ako. This will give us a single home for our research activities, which have been hither and yon for several years. We're excited about this progress, and we hope you'll find the program this evening interesting. At this time, I'd like to take notice of some of our special guests. Attending this evening, we have three members of the Friends of the Cancer Research Center. Jim Riston, our president. Mary Worrell. And Diane Ono, who has brought her family. Gary Gallagher and his daughter Mari. So you'll be hearing from her later. Finally, and certainly not least of all, I'd like to introduce my co-host for this event, Cordy McLaughlin. Cordy?
Thank you and aloha to all of you. At this time, I would like to invite the Chancellor of UH Maui College to come forward. Clyde?
Aloha. I guess I am the official greeter. Welcome all to UH Maui College. Just a word about our college's growth over the last few years. We're delighted to share with you that we're one of the fastest growing institutions, 52% over the last 5 years. Our current enrollment is 4313. We're now the fastest or the largest neighbor island institution. So we're very pleased about that, and even more delighted to have a wonderful Italian chef that has joined us this evening. You don't know this, but one of the assets that Michele brings to the Cancer Research Center is his tremendous ability to cook. And his cuisine apparently has persuaded the leadership of Queens Hospital and other hospitals around the islands to become partners in the Cancer Institute project. And we're delighted that he's here on Maui in our Culinary Institute. And we think that it's no accident that it's being held here. And look forward to Dr. Michele's leadership and his work with all of us here on Maui and at UH Maui College. And we're delighted to have all of you here this evening as part of our larger community, all interested in the work the Cancer Institute will be doing. So thank you all for being here. And Dr. Michele, hello.
Thank you, Clyde. Aloha to all of you. Before I acknowledge some special guests, I would like to share some personal comments. I was diagnosed with histiocytic non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1986 and 15 years later in 2001. I was lucky to have the benefit of clinical trials at Stanford Medical Center, partially because my oncologist was Dr. Chris Branson, who was a former dean of the UH Medical School, and partially because I was able to afford to fly out of the state. Many others from Hawaii do not have this luxury. The UH Cancer Center is a gift to the Hawaii community and the Pacific Rim, and I am personally grateful to all those who are making this a reality. Now, this time I would like to acknowledge some special guests. From the University of Hawaii Board of Regents, Tina Rasmussen. Tina. From the University of Hawaii Foundation, President Donna Vucinic. Vice President of Development, Greg Willems. And the Assistant Vice President of Manoa Leadership Gifts, Carrie Van Dyne. And now, a special guest. Marcy Greenwood is an internationally known researcher and a nationally recognized leader in higher education. As the 14th President of the University of Hawaii, Marcy is the first woman to serve as the University of Hawaii's CEO. She is a national leader on science and technology policy, and has served as the Associate Director and Consultant to the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. Marcy is past President and Fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, Fellow of the American Academies of Arts and Sciences, member of the Institute of Medicine, National Academy of Sciences, and a former member of the National Science Board. Marcy has published extensively and received numerous scientific awards as an expert on obesity, diabetes, and nutrition. She describes herself as a voracious and eclectic reader who enjoys volunteer work, hiking, sailing, and being a soccer grandma. Please help me welcome the President of the University of Hawaii, Marcy Greenwood.
Aloha. Aloha. It's a great pleasure to be over here on Maui again. I enjoy being here, and it's a particular pleasure to see all of you here for such an important and serious new beginning for our Cancer Center for the University of Hawaii. I didn't have the opportunity this morning, that some of you I know did, to come and hear our experts here in the state of Hawaii talk about the cancer research that's being done right here and will be done going forward. I particularly want to recognize a few of the folks who are here. You've all heard about Michele Carbone, but I want to recognize also Dr. David Ward. David, would you like to shake your hand? David, who is the Associate Director for the Center. Dr. Larry Colonel, an old friend. He and I survived a number of committees in Washington. Larry Colonel, thank you so much for being here today. Patricia Ward, it's Bray Ward, right? Patricia Bray Ward is also here, one of our researchers. Am I missing anyone else from the Cancer Center who's still here this evening? Other than Michele, who will get his own opportunity to tell you about how excited we are. It is very important, and I really appreciate those of you who have come today, for those on the neighbor islands, to understand what it is we are trying to do at the University of Hawaii. As Cordy just said, cancer touches everyone. It touches all families. It has touched my family. I'm sure it has touched the families of most of you in this room. Hawaii is a small state. We're out in the middle of what our chancellor at Manoa calls the blue planet. We're out here in the middle of it. So it's even more important that we build the research strength and the clinical strength and the capacity to help those who live here in Hawaii both survive cancer, live with cancer, be cured from cancer, and hopefully have cancer prevented. Our Cancer Center, which is a National Cancer Center designated center. Now you can say, well, that's nice. It's nice that they have a designation. But what it means is that we're connected to the most powerful network of researchers and clinical care in the world. There is nothing like the National Cancer Center network anywhere in the world with respect to new knowledge, new ideas, and understanding clinical trials and outcomes. For Hawaii to be part of that means that all of you, all of your families, and the many more people who aren't here today, their lives will be changed forever if we can continue to be successful with this center. Now, we're also a small state, which means that unlike the state I came from, California, or a state that I'm very familiar with, Massachusetts, we can't have, 3 or 4 of these centers fighting with each other, and we can't have centers working against each other or trying to compete. So one of the most important things about this wonderful center is the coming together that we have had with the hospitals in Hawaii, along with the research, to help us build for the future. We have a partnership now, the Hawaii Cancer Consortium, involving Queens, HPH, Kuakini, and probably in the near future, a few of the other players as well. And what that means is that together we can make substantially more progress than any of us could have hoped to do individually. And when you, as I have, been privileged to hear Art Ushijima or Chuck Stead testify in front of our legislators about why this center is so important, you understand that we are doing a very, very important thing here in Hawaii. and all of you are part of that. You will hear a little bit about the center, but you should all know that it is also a partnership with the people of Hawaii, because a substantial amount of the support for the funding of the construction is coming from reserved cigarette tax money, funds that come from contributions, which some of you have made, and furthermore, that we are having substantial success as we're looking for new faculty members who are willing to come out to Hawaii, establish their research, and focus on the types of cancer that are particularly prevalent here in Hawaii and also in the Asia-Pac region. So I'm going to stop here and let those who really have their heart and soul and their passion involved in this particular project talk with you a bit more, but please accept my personal thanks, the thanks of our colleagues on the Board of Regents, and all of us in the University of Hawaii for taking some time to share with us this evening, and we do appreciate your interest and support. Thank you very much.
I now have the great pleasure of introducing our director, McKelly Carboni, who has been responsible for the collaboration with the hospitals, bringing together our legislature and a number of other people to make this a success. McKelly?
Well, thank you very much for having organized this event here, for the opportunity to come here to Maui. I would like also to thank Kelly Tormi and her staff, Kevin and Paola Iguchi, that is standing back there. I don't see Kevin somewhere here. There is Kevin, who organized it. Thank you very much for all the work you put into it. I guess that now I have to invite all of you for dinner at my house. After what you heard from the Chancellor, I don't see a way around it. So please, when you come to Honolulu, give me a call and you can eat hopefully a good Italian dinner. So how is this thing going to work? What is this that we're getting out of the ground? How are we going to work? If you look at this, this is where the wet...
Use the microphone,
You can hear this is where the wet labs are going to be. The other part over there is where the dry lab are going to be. What does mean dry lab? Dry labs means computers. Means those scientists that do not necessarily do experiments into a laboratory, but they do their science working through computers or through computer programs. And that mostly where, for example, the programs of prevention and control and epidemiology are going to be located, mostly because they also have a part in the laboratory. And this is where the classical experiments that you see in the movies take place. Now, why do we need that? Well, we need that because, of course, you need to be able to attract people and to keep here good people. And to do that, you need to have facilities that are similar to what you expect to find in Chicago, in Boston, or in other places. So you need to be competitive. Otherwise, not only you are not going to attract people here, but you are not going to keep good people here. And we have a lot of good people here. I'll give you an example. I just am coming from the NCI Cancer Center retreat, where all the Cancer Center directors meet. And Harold Varmus, who is the director of the NCI, said that his goal is to have about 100 and possible 120 new funded investigators next year. What that means is that around all the United States of America, with all the cancer centers that there are, and there are just 65 recognized by the NCI, but many more that are not recognized, that are very famous places, like University of Illinois, Rush, Loyola. There are a lot of places around which do not have the designation that we have. Well, the hope of Varmus is to have between 100 and 120 young people entering the cancer research arena and receiving what is called an R1 grant. That is the large grant that is about $2 million over 5 years that the NCI gives. So he hopes to give 100 to 120. You divide for how many institutions there are around, you see what's our share. And that is an all year. At the first round that we went in this year, 3 of our young investigators won. And that is phenomenal. If you think how small we are compared to people like places like Johns Hopkins or Harvard or other places. So we have great people here. We need to keep here. these people, because what happens is that as soon as they win these grants, the big institution come and try to steal that from us. So for sure we need to have facilities here that can keep good people here and that can attract good people here. Now why you want to attract good people here? Well, we have a strange system here in Hawaii. And that is, we have a private hospital and then we have a medical school. But the medical school does not have a hospital and the private hospitals does not have a university. Now anybody who is an academic physician, who is, if I can say, one of the famous doctors that you want to go to, is not going to work in a private setting if there is not a university setting attached to it. So it doesn't matter how good Queen is, doesn't matter how good HPH is, they're not going to be able to recruit these people and keep them here. We can't recruit doctors to work if we do not have a hospital where to make them work. And so you see the necessity to have a partnership between the university and the hospital to create what is called a consortium, a matrix center, in which you can offer people that you want to bring here both opportunities so that you can recruit people here. And that is very important because it allows us to recruit people that are then the physicians that treat all of us when we need physicians. And I'll give you an example of what it means, this consortium, because otherwise it looks pieces of paper that are written by CEOs and then nothing happens, right? But just last month we hired Dr. Amy Powers. Amy Powers is a pathologist. She ran blood banking at Beth Israel. That is one of the hospitals at Harvard, a nice place to be. Queen needed a director of apheresis at their place, but they did not have enough volume to justify that. So they only have 50% position job. Well, how are you going to hire somebody and say, I hire you for 50%, the rest you go to the beach? I mean, obviously it doesn't work. The Cancer Center have been looking for a director of the pathology core for the past 5 years. I interviewed for that job some years ago. But we couldn't find one because we couldn't pay. The university has limited amounts of salaries that we pay that do not match what physicians are used to make. So how you do that? Well, we fix it because we hire Dr. Powers together with Queen. So she works 50% at our place, she works 50% at Queen. And as a result of that, the Queen has now the technology, the know-how that it needs, but could afford it because the other portion of the salary of Dr. Powers is paid by us, and at the same time, she would never have come here if she would not have had an academic appointment, if she was not working in a university. So you see how to put the two things together helps, in fact, both systems. And as a result, as a consequence of that, we also hired Kim, that happens to be her husband. Now that was critical, because here in Hawaii, I don't know if you know, there are various women here, there were only 2 gynecology oncologists. One was working at Queen, one was working at HPH. Both needed a half more position to cover for all their patients, but again, they couldn't afford to pay for a full position. And because the two were competing with each other, how you do that? So both gynecology oncologists were overworked, and you can imagine an island with a set of islands, 1.3 million, with 2 only gynecology oncologists. If one is sick, there is only one for 1.3 million. I mean, it's impossible. But yet the system did not allow to bring others in. So to make a long story short, because of the consortium, now Queen, HPH, and Kaiser in this case join in, and they hire Kim Roberts, who was an assistant professor, going associate at Taft in Boston, and he came here and brought in the latest skills in computerized surgery. He does that robotic surgery that you probably are all familiar with. And so by doing that, we are bringing the new technology to Hawaii. And that happens because these different partners are working together, otherwise we couldn't bring them here. So of course you need a cancer center because we're doing research. That is the primary reasons why we exist. But the reason I made this example of Dr. Kim is to give you the idea of also the side benefits that you get by having a cancer center that then allows people like Dr. Kim, like Dr. Powers to come here and have appointments in both in the private sector and the university, and so you can keep recruiting them here. Now, what is that we want to do here? Well, everybody wants to come to Hawaii. It's the most beautiful place in the world. That's why I came here. And if people are given the opportunity to come here, they will come here, because who would not want to come here? I mean, the reason you are here is logic, right? Because there is no place like this. Even if I love Chicago, as I was discussing before, but still, I had to give it up for Honolulu. So we want to create a setting where people can come to work. Because if we create that setting, people will come. And that's why I believe that by setting up this cancer center, we will be able to attract. And in fact, just last week, we hired 2 great persons. A new director for the prevention and control program, and Dr. Boucher, that is a nutritionist from Purdue, that is going to join us in the month of April, and the director of the prevention and control is joining us from the National Cancer Institute, that are great scientists that are coming here, and are coming here because we have something to show that we are going to have here. So I think that this will attract people here, and this thing will grow more. And the technology today allow us to bridge being in Hawaii, Asia, and the United States. And cancer is not just relevant to the place where you are. Of course, any progress that you do is relevant to everybody. There are unique things to here. But our geographic location here makes this the perfect place to bring together 2 cultures, to make people come here because everybody wants to come here, exchange ideas, establish partnership, and work together, and we can take advantage of what we have here that is fantastic. We already have a good cancer center, we have a very strong nucleus of scientists, and Dr. Larry Colonel that is there is the person that we have to thank most, because he started the cancer center and he made Hawaii a very famous place in the world for epidemiology. And it's really thanks to Dr. Colonel that today we have a cancer center, so we should all be thankful to him. And growing out of the nucleus that Dr. Colonel created in epidemiology, I think that in the next decade or so we can have in Hawaii what is called the Comprehensive Cancer Center. That means epidemiology together with basic science, with clinical science that can work together, and we can make here what San Diego did some 30 or 40 years ago when they were just a little Mexican town near the border, and now they are the leading in biotechnology. I think we can do the same thing here. Thank you very much. Sorry if I took so long.
I think people should be aware that McKelly's collaboration with the hospitals and everything else has probably saved us about $350 million. So it's been a very worthwhile effort. At the groundbreaking for the new building here, Cordy and I were both in attendance, and we had a great presentation from a member of one of our Friends board members' family. So without further ado, Mary Gallagher, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Mr. Earl Stoner for having me speak at such an important event. My name is Mari Gallagher, and I am a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 4. The treatment for my cancer was based on a clinical trial made available by the University of Hawaii's Cancer Center. Fortunately, this trial was successful, and I am able to stand before you today. During my treatment on this trial, I did not have to spend long periods of time in the hospital. When I did have to spend time in the hospital, my mother was there every step of the way. Although I suffer from attention deficit disorder from the chemotherapy I received, I am fortunate and immensely grateful that I am so healthy. I graduated as a daughter of Iolani School in June 2010 after attending for 13 years, and I am now a proud freshman at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I hope to enter... I hope to enter the College of Education and become a special education teacher and minor in Spanish. I was recently invited to join the honors program at the University of Hawaii. I am in the application process now. If it weren't for the Cancer Center and the clinical trial they offered for me, I would not be so fortunate to have the opportunity to follow my dreams today. I have now been in remission for over 13 years. This event symbolizes not only the beginning of a bright future for the University of Hawaii's Cancer Center, but also the development of more opportunities to put more cancer patients in remission like myself. Your generosity and support is truly amazing and will change change many lives for the better. Thank you very much for attending this special event and giving me the honor and privilege of speaking before you all this evening.
Thank you very much, Mari. Appreciate it. During the initial announcement event on Oahu for the Cancer Center, I had the great pleasure of meeting Dr. David Ward and his wife Tricia, and found out that he had come to work for the Cancer Center from the actually with a midway stop in Las Vegas, but from Newfoundland and far off eastern Canada. I think Dr. Ward has had ample opportunity to thaw out now, so I'm going to have you listen to his presentation. Dr. Ward?
Thank you all. It's been a terrific pleasure to be here and spend the last day and a half. I must say that I feel reluctant to be on the stage after Mary's presentation. She was short, sweet, succinct, and absolutely so lovely. And it's hard to follow that. And particularly since I was asked to talk about a topic that I know nothing about. Future directions, future progress in cancer research. And she had the audacity, Kelly, that she had in 2050 or 2150. I won't be around. They have no idea to be able to come back and say, I told you so. But that's not going to happen. But I decided that there are obviously things that we need to do going forward. We need to have more people like Mary who can say, I'm a 13-year survivor, except I want to hear her say, I'm a 50-year survivor and longer. So the things that we need to do here are to improve what we are doing now. So if you think of what do we think of when we are thinking about my cancer risks and that, you have a risk of developing cancer at some time in your lifetime. So we need to better understand how one assesses those risks and what it means to you or your family. The other thing we need to improve on is prevention. We need to find better ways of identifying markers that we can say, oh, you are going to get cancer in 6 months from now. That's prognostic. And I've been involved in a study on ovarian cancer, which is a very deadly cancer in women. It's not a very prevalent one, but it is quite lethal. And the several societies on oncology groups have pooled together and produced thousands of samples from women, blood samples, and they've been collected over many years from the same women. So it's a longitudinal study where you take the blood sample 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and then a person gets diagnosed with the cancer. So you have samples that are taken longitudinally over time. And we were asked by the several cancer societies, the oncology group, and the PLCO, which is prostate, to say, can we detect with the markers that we've generated these cancers a year before, 2 years before they actually appear? And unfortunately, the bottom line is, and papers that are coming out soon, no, we can't. We can only do it about 3 months ahead of time for ovarian cancer. So what in prevention, we need to get better assays that can be used on hopefully non-invasive material like blood or urine. So this is an area that we have to improve on, getting ways that we can look at early detection of the things, which is part of the screening process. That's the third part, in addition to prevention, screening of things which involve markers that can tell you you're getting, you have cancer. And obviously, the earlier you can detect a cancer in an individual, the easier it's going to be not only to treat, but your survival is much, much increased if the cancer is diagnosed early rather than late. And then, so this involves methods, new methods of imaging, non-invasive imaging, and improvements in MRI or PET scans. And these are all, many people at the Cancer Center in Honolulu are working on trying to develop those new techniques. Because a lot of what we do is all driven by new technology. We say we can't do this, and then all of a sudden someone develops the technology, and now you can do it. So improving screening techniques, improving our assays in biological fluids. And the other, obviously, is that we need to improve on is treatment. And with the clinical trials that are coming on, with the molecular biology that's being done, people are identifying specific targets that might be involved in the induction or the progression of specific types of cancer. And we are starting now to create therapies which are targeted to specific molecules, not the way that we did it 20 years ago. I've got a toxic compound, hopefully it'll kill cancer cells more than non-cancer cells, and you have about a balance of 1. That's called the therapeutic index of 1. If you had a way that you could target a molecule and get 10 times or 100 times the activity on the cancer cell than you get normal, then your toxicity goes down, your quality of life goes up, and hopefully the response to treatment goes up. And these are all issues that we're going to have to deal with going forward. And with the new enterprise that we have, the new integration between the researchers and the clinicians that are part of this consortium going forward, we hope that we will be able to lead here in Honolulu or here in Hawaii some of these approaches to improve factors which are going to improve your health, your longevity, and as I said this morning, you know, what our main mission is to have us all die of extreme old age and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you all again for coming. We have a...
Could I ask one question?
You're more than welcome. I'm not sure I can answer it, but I'd be happy to have you
I
ask.
would love to hear how Maui College and/or Maui Memorial Hospital are either currently or expected to be linked to this cancer center.
I'm going to give you the expert.
When we formed the consortium, we limited the group that formed the consortium to HPH, Queen, and then Joaquini came on board for practical reasons, because when you have too many people in a room, things cannot get done. Now that we have formed the consortium, and that hopefully on Thursday we will have the 501c3 approved by the Board of Regents, we welcome all the other partners, hospitals, to join the consortium, because that will make simply the consortium stronger. So I hope, although I have not started yet, that in fact, we can join forces with the neighbor islands. And it just makes sense that first we establish the collaboration among the islands, and then we move this collaboration and this network to what I was discussing before, to join Asia and the United States. Of course, if you see our cancer center, it's a way to join together investigators between mainland USA and Asia. The first thing that we have to do, however, is to join the various hospitals in the islands of Hawaii in a network, so that we can provide the same quality of care and the same options to all the people who live in Hawaii. To make a long story short, I very much hope that in the next few months we are going to have many more partners that join our consortium.
I would point out that this is our first Neighbor Island effort in presenting the center to people throughout the state of Hawaii. And I think that it's the beginning of communication, collaboration with medical people involved in cancer research, diagnosis, and treatment throughout the state. So I think that McKelly will make good on his efforts to make the Maui hospitals and people involved in research here, like Bobby Baker and others involved with the center on a day-to-day basis with a mutual communication situation, and the benefit that, as Marcy mentioned, we have with NCI, which is really far-reaching. Thank you all again very much, and there's a lot of food left and a lot of wine left, so enjoy yourselves. Thank you.